Rip City Mornings.
This is why Tyson Alger needs to join the program to keep me off of this ridiculous rant, to get us talking about better and better things, potentially, which is Pac-12 football. He was also there at PK Park, Heartbreak City for Oregon baseball, joining us to talk about all of it. Friend of the program from the I-5 corridor. His name is Tyson Alger. Good morning, Tyson. How are you?
I'm good, Justin. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. You know, I'm trying to figure out how we're going to get Zion to Portland, straight up number 3 pick. He's going to come here. He's going to eat, salmon and brown rice, drink kale smoothies. He's going to trim down, and Portland's going to be, they're going to be the new Denver Nuggets. That's how I'm doing.
Yeah, I came into Portland to trim down too, and it hasn't gone so well. And, I like the idea of a healthy Zion playing in Portland would be so fun, but what are the chances that someone whose things haven't gone well so far, it suddenly works and he has a stroke of luck in Portland? That's just not really what we do here, Like we're not the bounce back city. It'll be fun here these next 2 weeks approaching the draft. I'm assuming that you have just hours and hours and hours of content loaded up, ready for this thing, right?
Just so much content loaded up. Also, much like last year, I know you and I had this conversation. All I needed was 17 seconds of an Instagram video of Bo Nix throwing a football, and I was like, "That's it. I'm all in. I love him. This is the best thing ever." All I needed was 17 seconds. I'm getting pretty close to that with Scoot Henderson as well. I've watched far more shirtless workouts of a 19-year-old than I care to admit. But Alger, I'm ready. Let's do it.
Yeah, he looks pretty good, doesn't he, on the court? We'll have years to debate this still, but I'm still a little hesitant at the prospect of another short guard. But hey,
But this one, he's jacked though. He's built.
Yeah, exactly.
Brick something house is how I would describe it. All right, Tyson, let's talk about what happened at PK Heartbreak City down at PK Park. You were there. Oregon snatches victory from the jaws of defeat on Friday night. They walk it off, come back from an 8-0 deficit, and then they are an out away. They are a strike away from going to Omaha for the first time in the modern era, for the first time in program history since like the 50s, and a flare to left, much reminiscent of the ball in the sun a handful of years ago. And Oregon goes from dog pile to just a dog of a day.
Yeah, it was tough, man. Like, especially that Friday night, seeing how much potential there is behind this program. I mean, it was completely packed out. They were putting auxiliary stands out in the outfield. Fans were there early. The crowd didn't quite know how to cheer. This isn't really a baseball school. And so it was like chaos, but it was all over the place and it was great. And it was honestly, Friday night was one of the most unique Oregon sporting events I've been at when you consider the comeback and the context and what happened. And at least they got that right, because the next 2 days were terrible. Mm-hmm. I don't know. To me, you might be able to help with this context, but to me, this one being that close to Omaha doesn't quite feel as bad as it did back in 2012. Because one, it was the fault of the pitching staff and the fact that Oregon was just completely gassed and not you didn't see the ball in the sun. But yeah, man, it was tough because I think going into Saturday, everyone kind of just had that feeling that something special, something historic might happen. And then it got to that point, and then it just kind of felt like, here we go again. And then by the time that Sunday happened, it just felt like Oregon was completely out of gas by the mid innings there.
Well, and it is also fascinating to me. I love it and hate it at the same time. Look, every team, whether it's college or pro, needs bandwagon fans. Bandwagon fans can be kind of fun when your team's on a roll, but they can also be very frustrating because, Tyson, I don't know how much you paid attention to Twitter, but there were a lot of pitching coaches on Twitter on Sunday that had Oregon O's in their bio or in their avatars on Twitter. A lot of pitching experts and a lot of people who probably didn't realize that there was a couple of guys hurt. A couple of guys used up that, when you score a lot of runs, that, you have to burn up an awful lot of arms. But a lot of pitching coaches and a lot of people throwing out some hot takes on Oregon on Sunday.
Yeah, and I'm stealing this a bit from Steve Mims, but I don't think there's a whole lot of Oregon fans who know the name of the actual pitching coach. And so, I enjoyed seeing a lot of baseball Twitter in June from accounts that I don't generally see tweeting about baseball. But yeah, I imagine that had to have been frustrating in some form or another if you're on the team to just be like, where have you guys been? Like, it's but on the flip side, like this is the side effect of having a team that's growing, that's building. I mean, Oregon football, I don't think anyone's ever accused of that program having bandwagon fans. I think everyone has been in for 50 plus years.
The whole time. Definitely when I was a child in the 80s, definitely couldn't just go up, buy a ticket, same day, watch the game. Definitely.
Yeah. No. Ever since Casanova brought the blur offense to the school, but yeah, I thought overall it was they didn't make the World Series, but I thought this was probably the best weekend for Oregon baseball in nearly a decade. I mean, PK Park looked like I think Pat Kilkenny envisioned it was going to look when they sinkhole to that money and built that program and said they were going to make people forget about Corvallis. Well, they haven't forgotten about Corvallis, but at least they know where baseball is in Eugene now because Wazakowski's team is fun. They recruit a type of player that, I mean, I think there was 10 home runs this weekend. I don't think I saw 10 home runs in my first 3 years covering that team. So it should be a fun future, but it's definitely disappointing to be that close again, especially with the history of this program.
Tyson Alger of the I-5 Corridor joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. One more thing on Oregon baseball, because I do remember, that run, that super regional in 2012 and how close Oregon got. And then the feel back then was, well, all right, they built the program. They hired George Horton, who at the time was an absolute steal of a hire. It took him a couple of years, but finally they got to the postseason. They hosted a super regional, bad break, ball in the sun. But this is going to happen every single year. They've done it. Phil Knight and the money. It finally worked. Never going backwards again, only going forwards. And we knew that was not the case. And so I'm wondering, you being there and you obviously still paying attention to this program, what is the feel now? What is the field moving forward? Because it does seem like still a pretty optimistic feel around Oregon baseball, even though history is like, oh, yeah, you lost the Super Regional. That was your one chance with Horton and never got back. This one feels a little more optimistic.
Yeah, the Horton era one was interesting because, it was incredible that they got that far within, 3-4 seasons of bringing a program back, especially in a conference that does have national powerhouses like Oregon State, USC, and Arizona. Like, to get to the Super Regional that quick, it was like, oh my gosh, this is what Oregon does now. I guess this is just going to be a baseball school, and it didn't work out that way. I mean, they had a couple decent teams for the next couple of years, and then it just went through a drought. With his Waz team, Omaha is still the goal. He was disappointed in the post game of saying, I guess this just wasn't the year for us. But it does feel like that this era of the program has been given the room to kind of grow organically. I mean, the Hortons thing, it just felt like the expectation was like, oh, it's another Oregon program during the peak Nike years. Of course they're going to go to Omaha. This one, definitely disappointing, and it was hard seeing kind of all the seniors grouped together there with Waz at the end, and this was a very, very, very tight team. But I think they're really laying down the foundation here to build things up and to have a sustainable. I think the floor is going to be very high with Oregon baseball. I do think college baseball is freaking crazy, and you can get really random bounces, and it is hard to get to this point of the tournament. But boy, I think Oregon baseball is in an awfully good spot to at least be in contention for years in the future.
Yeah, could be worse. Could be Texas right now. That's
oh my God,
Oregon bad, Texas worse.
Yeah, that was. I'm sure some people in Eugene had flashbacks after seeing that one.
All right, Tyson Alger, the I-5 Corridor, joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. My bad. Should have prepped you with this next question to maybe give you some time to think on it. So again, I'm just going to preface my bad. But I don't know if you've seen, Netflix has the the documentary coming out with Florida and the Urban Meyer years, which is going to be fascinating to say the least, to especially see how deep they dive into that, which got me thinking also watching the Bill Walton 30 for 30, which has some really fun, like old school Portland Nuggets, and Bill's walking around Northwest Portland in his old house, and some old guy was like, yeah, you ate too many vegetables and couldn't win a title, which I thought was an interesting drop in. But Tyson, it got me thinking with regard to Oregon football, and even we could throw Oregon State in there. Is there, if you were like 30 for 30 producer Alger, what's the unique deep dive you would love to see with maybe either Oregon or Oregon State in like a 30 for 30 or just our Netflix documentary?
Man, that's
and again,
a
I
good
should have
one.
prepped you earlier, and that's my bad.
I guess with Oregon, you could kind of do something looking into like the Nike relationship and how they revolutionized the uniforms while being fast and that sort of thing. I don't really know what like the drama angle would be in there. I mean, if you really want to get deep down in the depths here, didn't TCU sell the rights to their Alamo Bowl comeback after winning that game when Oregon was up 31-0?
Oh man.
I think I remember like reading something that they were going to turn that into a movie, and so yeah, like that one might work on the Duck side. Oregon State, I legit think you could probably do a 30 for 30 on like the 2000s College World Series Oregon State baseball teams. I've come on your program many times and said I think that's the most impressive thing that's happened in the state sporting wise. And for them to rattle off back-to-backs and then come back a decade later, yeah, you could probably make that work.
That would be fascinating to see, because there's a lot of layers to that. But like, again, because I had friends that played at Oregon State, and listen, just like we joked around about how like clearly Len Casanova came in and said, hey, let's build Autzen Stadium in Oregon, was just a sellout ever since. Like, obviously that's not the case, but Oregon fans have a revisionist history. Oregon State baseball fans, I think, have maybe the same thing about maybe 2003 and previous in terms of what Goss Stadium was like, because I very much remember you did not need a ticket to go to Oregon State baseball games. You just needed to show up, and there was plenty of good parking. And to see that, and in just 2 years, to see them go to 3 consecutive College World Series, win 2 of them, yeah, that's got 30 for 30 written all over it.
Yeah, all of a sudden you start knowing the name of the pitching coach, right?
Exactly right. It was Henderson. Henderson, who ended up coaching at Kentucky. Marty Lees was the third base coach, and of course you got Pat Casey there. And I'm not even an Oregon State fan.
Yeah, that's what happens is, I mean, Oregon State won those back-to-backs, and then this last year, and everyone knows their names. I mean, Oregon was a win away from at least like having people know like the initials, and then you gotta actually like win the whole thing, and then people start knowing the auxiliary staff.
It kind of makes me a little bit sad, Tyson, but we are like to the point where we're far enough beyond it, and I know like good luck getting Chip Kelly to open up, but like the 30 for 30 on the 4-year run of Chip Kelly, right? Because like, and as crazy as it sounds, it started 12 years ago. It's insane, but like, about 12 years ago. My math is now off, but like to 30 for 30 on like what Chip Kelly did, not just to Oregon, but to like college football, to where like Nick Saban and all these big time coaches like, guys, we better start going fast. To me, I think that would be fascinating if you could get Chip to open up. But like I said, good luck.
I'd rather watch that than like a 30 for 30 on like, here's the 35 stars Alabama got again this year in the over. Adversity they have to overcome. I do think that the Chip Kelly era would be a fascinating look into that. They didn't win the Natty, but there's probably no program or coach that transformed football more during that era. You could have a lot of fun backstories. You could have like the We Smoked All chapter. You could have, there's a lot of stuff you could go into that with that one. So I'm in. I think maybe we co-produce and get a little bit of a
Now we just got to find somebody to give us a whole bunch of money, and somebody that knows how to make documentaries, and then equals profit.
I blew my shot at that by already writing the letter to Phil a couple weeks ago about the hockey thing. I probably got to wait like another year before I hit him up for something else. I haven't heard back, by the way. Maybe my phone's been off, but
yeah, I don't know, that whole production company thing, right? We got to get like they did with the soccer team with like McElhaney. He just like hit up like Ryan Reynolds and was like, "Hey, you want to buy this soccer team, and then we'll make a TV show and probably sell your gin a whole lot." Like, how about that? So we just got to start, I think, DMing celebrities.
Yeah, my Ryan Reynolds, like the person who's in my industry who's more successful and better looking than me. That's Andrew Grice, and he's not all that loaded either. So we're gonna have to try to bring in some bigger money people.
Tyson Alger of the I-5 Corridor joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. What do we got coming up? What's new on the corridor?
Oh, man. Let's see here. Today, actually, last night, we posted a profile of Portland State's new offensive coordinator, A.C. Patterson. Coming up tomorrow, I got a couple more baseball stories. And then on Friday, we're continuing our I-510 series with Oregon State quarterback Aiden Childs. The Beavers know they have a new quarterback in town, but is it the one that they expected to be this good? Find out Friday on the I-5 Corridor.
All right, there we go. You can follow him on Twitter at Tyson Alger. You can also subscribe to the I-5 Corridor if you haven't already. Subscribe, support local journalism. It's under attack right now. We need good reporters in our local markets. We have them. We all need to support them. Tyson, always a pleasure having you on the big show. Have a terrific rest of your week. We'll talk to you again soon.
Hey, appreciate it, buddy.